So anyway, we've back to this guy. We've laid this out on here, and like I said, all of the dashed lines we're going to fold towards you, okay? If you'll look on the back side of this, we've got a couple of dashed lines on the back also. Those folds need to go the other direction, and you'll see how this comes together in just a minute. But we're going to lay this up here and make some of these cuts, and we'll start gluing this thing together. And hopefully by the end of the session here, we'll have a boat pretty well put together. Bob's got a straight edge there he's going to use, and I'm going to grab another one, and we're going to just make some of these cuts on here first and get some of these cuts out of the way. Here again, you can use a variety of different kinds of knives. You can use a utility knife like this. The little disposable knives work well. I have an old carpet knife. If anybody knows anybody in the carpet laying business, they work really nice. They've got really thin blades. I like those. The blades are very sharp. They're two-sided, so you need to be careful with those. But here again, we're just going to make some of these cuts, and we'll start gluing here in just a second. We're going to do a few creases, and we'll do some. Bob gets mad at me when I make cuts without a straight edge, but I'm doing it anyway here so we can keep this moving along. Don't you, Bob? Yeah. Yeah, he says. You'll never see him do that.
Never.
Never. All right. So we're just cutting these pieces away. Okay, we have all of the material, all the cuts made now. And as you can see, we did some of this ahead of time, so you didn't have to watch us cut this whole thing out. But here again, we've got a number of areas with the dashed lines where we need to do our creases. And we've done the... That one? Yeah, we've done the majority of these creases. But here again, sometimes a long straight edge like this is real handy for making long creases like this. And again, we just go over it several times and just gently compress those flutes in the cardboard until we get them at a point where we can bend them, just like that. Now, the majority of these folds and creases that we do, we like to bend them a little bit past where they're going to end up. And by that I mean, when this is glued in position, if we want that, if it's going to be straight up and down, I like to bend it a little bit past. That way when you fold everything together, there's not a bunch of pressure against the other parts, and everything comes together and glues together nicely. So we've got most of these creased. We're going to go ahead and work through some of these folds. You got them done on the other end there, Bob? Okay, and I think these are mostly ready to go here too. Now, some of these real long folds, you know, those little ones you can see we do by ourselves. These longer ones are a little more challenging sometimes, particularly if you're using the double ply cardboard. And what we'll do when we're doing a fold or a crease on double ply cardboard is we'll put our straight edge on there just a little bit off the line. Let's hold that up so they can see that, Bob. Maybe just a little bit, not quite right on the line, but just a little bit off the line, to hold that in position. And then depending on how long it is, you might want 2 or 3 people to help make that fold just like that there. But you can see we got a nice straight crease there. And here again, we're going to fold that past 90 degrees so when it comes time to start gluing this thing up, it won't be fighting us back. We're going to use this straight edge again. Now, this single ply cardboard bends really easy because it's just one layer thick, obviously. But when you go to fold your double ply cardboard that you're using for a hull of a bigger boat, it's a little more challenging, and you're going to need 2 or 3 people to make a fold like this. All right, we'll come over and Get these guys coming back this way. And go a little past 90 degrees again. A couple more here and we'll be ready to get it off that line there a little bit. A couple more here and we'll be ready to put some glue on this thing. There again, we're folding it past 90 degrees, and I think we got one more here. Okay. That's all our creases on this side, but if you remember, we've got a couple on the back side we still need to do. So we'll flip it over and do those real quick. And one more on the back side here. Okay, we've got all our folds ready, and we're about ready to start pushing this into the shape of a boat. Now, you can see right now, this is just a floppy, loose piece of cardboard. And each step we go, it's going to pick up some rigidity and become more solid, the length of the boat and in every other direction. And that's part of our design here. When we, part of our design is we've got these sides of the boat. This is going to be our side. This is like a hollow channel along here. That adds a lot of strength to the length of the boat. And depending on the length of your boat, what we have done in the past too is inside of here, for the entire length of the boat, glued an additional piece of cardboard on there to give it some strength from front to back. Because you'll see a lot of the boats at the regatta, they break in the middle. A lot of the weight tends to be centered in the middle of the boat, and you'll see a lot of the boats that kink or break in the middle. And this helps with that. Also some bulkheads that we're going to put in here in just a minute will help with that. Here's an example of a spot where we'd use a chalk line. This tab, this is what we call these, any piece of cardboard that's going to glue back to another piece, we call it a tab. And we want that tab to come right to the center of our boat. So we're going to make a little mark on here. Our boat's 12 inches wide. We're going to make a little mark at 6 inches on each end. And what we want to do, what we're doing there, that mark is where the edge of this tab is going to come to. It's going to be right in the center of our boat. And what that does is, by design, it's going to make this wall or the side of the boat perfectly straight up and down. And this is a good opportunity to use a chalk line, Bob's favorite tool. Okay. And you can see that made a nice blue line down the middle that we can put our tab to. And probably our first step at gluing this boat together, we're going to pull the bow and the stern of the boat together here a little bit. And to do that, we like to use some of these little clamps. I've got a whole bucket full of these just little pincher clamps. Everybody has some of those around, or if you don't, you can buy them. They're pretty cheap. All right, we're going to trowel a little glue on these. You got our spreaders there, Robert? Okay. We spread it. Here again, we'll show you. That's about the amount of glue you want on there. You get much more than that, it takes forever to dry. You get much less than that, it doesn't stick very good. What we're going to do is we're going to fold that over to this other tab right here. And we're going to just put a couple of these little clamps on inside there. Go ahead. Okay, we got those tabs stuck together there. And we're going to go do the same thing on the front of the boat now while we let that dry just a second. Okay, we got these two tabs that are folding to each other. Bob's going to push those in there. We're checking on the back side here. We're feeling along here to make sure everything's lined up right. We'll turn that around real quick so you can see what we're doing. As we're gluing that up back there, we're checking this seam down here to make sure we got it lined up, and I'm a little bit off right there, so I'm going to see if I can straighten it out. And we got that straightened out pretty good. All right, we're going to just keep going here. I'll tell you what, let's do that end first, Bob, and we should be able to pull these off pretty quick. Yeah, let's do this right here. Try to do our best not to get glue over the mayor's new carpet here. See here? Anybody seen him? And I know we're going kind of fast here, so I apologize, but we got a limited amount of time, so we'll try to get this. We're going to try to get this little guy put together, and then you can come take a look at what we're doing afterwards. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. All right, now we've got two little tabs. Listen, let me spin that around. Go ahead and try that out, Bob. We got two little tabs on the front of this boat. Oops. The nose of our boat, those little tabs right here, they're going to fold and come together like that right here. You see Bob doing that? Open that up so they can see that. Those little tabs in there, Bob. And we're going to I like to have a damp rag around any excess glue that gets on the outside of your boat. It doesn't hurt anything, but it leaves marks and drips and stuff. If you want your boat to really look nice and pretty, just kind of wipe that excess glue off. And Bob likes to wipe his fingers off. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the back of this boat now. Excuse me, we're back to the bow, actually. Now, some of those first tabs we glued together, they are pretty close to being dry enough that we can take these clamps off. When you're actually building your boat, a full-scale boat, you probably want to let it dry a little bit longer, but it really doesn't have to dry as long as you think. Sometimes, 15 minutes or so clamped together, as long as it's not as long as there's not a lot of pressure on the joint. In other words, two sheets pulling away from each other. All right. Got it? All right, stick our clamp in there. Okay, it's starting to shape up here a little bit. All right, let's tip it up. You can kind of see what we got going on inside of there. A lot of little clamps all over the place, and we've got the two tabs on the nose of our boat that we need to fold in and glue to each other. Bob's having to make a little adjustment on there. We had just a little extra material in there that he's cut away. At this point, our boat weighs 6 pounds, but we've got 32 pounds worth of clamps on it. Yeah. Let's see if I'm going down a little lower. Okay. Here again, you can kind of see where we're at now. It's starting to look a little like a boat. Our next step is we're going to take these walls and form those up. and we're going to bring those to our chalk line that we just made in the middle. You can still see our chalk line. This side of this tab is coming to this, this side, and we're going to bring those guys right to the middle, and then we'll put just a little weight on that to hold that down. And another trick we do, the sides, when you do that, the sides kind of tend to want to flare out, but we want to pull them together. So we're going to just put some masking tape across the top, or if my other clamps are long enough, we might use those instead. Not sure if these are long enough. Yeah, these will work. Now we're trying to get this boat shaped up a little bit. Yeah, you can take that off. But every step of the way, as we glue more and more seams together, the boat becomes a little more rigid. And this will take us just a minute or two to trowel this glue out in here. I'm just going to do it along that inside edge here. Huh? We're slopping a bunch of glue in here. We'll hold this up and show you after we get it troweled out in here a little bit. Okay, we got just a fairly nice even coat of glue in there, and we can still see our chalk line in the middle. So we're going to put these floor tabs right to that chalk line from each side. Hold it right there. Hold it right there. Yep. This is one of our more popular clamps. It's called the paint can clamp. Everybody's got a can of paint or a bucket of water, a gallon of water, or, like I said, 2-liter soft drinks, or just anything that adds a little weight. We're going to let that sit on there for a second. Now, the next thing we're going to add to this boat are bulkheads or walls. We're going to put a bulkhead or a wall right here in the front, and we're going to put another one in the back, and then the last one, we'll put a bulkhead right in the middle. Here's our bulkheads, which is just a little wall, but you can see it folds in a U shape there kind of. This tab will glue to the bottom of the boat, and this tab will remain on the top, and what will happen there is we're going to put a cover on the bow. We're going to put a cover on the bow and the stern to keep water from getting down inside that part of the boat. And I'm going to say these clamps front and back are probably, maybe leave them on the, yeah, maybe leave these on there. And we're going to pull these off real quick. And, or just leave room to, okay, that's all right. Now, we left some little tabs, and I'll flip this up here in a second and show you, but on the end, you think we're good? On the end of these walls of the boats, you can see we left some little tabs here. Okay, we left those behind, and that's what we're going to, that's another surface that we're going to glue these bulkheads to. We'll put some glue right here and right here, and we're going to slide that little guy right down in there, and it'll glue to those tabs right here and there. This tab will glue to the floor, and then eventually we're going to put a piece on the top here that will glue to that. So let's slip this first one in here. Yeah, I'll do this, I'll do the back end, and Bob's going to do the front. And Bob's warmed up on gluing. I'm not. I've got too much glue on mine. So I'm going to scrape a little of the extra off, and I'm just going to hide it down inside the boat here. Nobody will know. Don't tell anybody. All right, we're going to slide this guy in here. With a little bit of luck, it'll fit. No snickering if it doesn't. Okay. That went in there pretty good. I got glue everywhere. Don't tell Bob. Now here's a little trick that I like to do in an area like this. It's kind of hard to get a clamp in there to hold that up against there. So we occasionally will do this. You don't have to have a power drill. You can just use a hand drill, but I just use some little screws. And I'll screw that, put a screw in there. 2 or 3 up and down each side, and I'm screwing it to that tab that I got behind there. And that'll hold that in there nicely until it dries. Now once it dries, you have to take the screw out. You can't have any screws remaining in your boat. We're just simply using that as a little clamp mechanism, or just a device to hold that bulkhead in place while that glue dries for a minute or two. Okay, now we're getting pretty close to be able to put our little cap on here. In a minute, let's let that. Yeah. Can you pull your glue jug out of there? Okay, now we've still got some clamps on here, but you can see this boat's getting pretty rigid now. It's getting solid. And that's mainly because of these hollow walls running the length of the boat. That really gives it a lot of strength. Another thing you can see here, these tabs we left behind to glue this cover onto, okay? These overlap here a little bit. So we just miscalculated there a little bit. So we're going to just trim a little of that excess material off of there, so they're not overlapping, and that way we get a nice clean glue joint with our cover that we're going to put on there. They can be short they can be too short, but you don't want them too long, because then you have an uneven surface to glue to there. Okay, I got that out of the way. So now I got a good surface to glue that onto. And this is just a little high. You can see that's just a little high on that side, so I'm going to kind of trim that back a little bit. Kind of even that out. And we're going to put this guy on here in just a minute. And you're right, it don't fit. We pre-cut that piece, and the shape of our boat has changed a little bit as we folded it together, and it doesn't fit on there quite right. So we'll just make a new one here real quick. And an easy way to do that is we can lay that piece of cardboard on there, and then Bob's just going to scribe it or just draw a line underneath the exact size we want that. I'll hold it in place, hold it down tight. He scribed it on there. That's the exact size we need. We'll just cut that out real quick. And I'm not using a straight edge. Is he looking? Okay, that little guy should fit on there better now, and it does. Yeah. Okay, now remember, we got to get our screws out of there before we close this thing up. Can't tell you how many times I've built a boat and we're all done with it, and I've left a screw laying down inside of here, and we're carrying the boat, and there's a screw rattling around in there. So be sure and get those out. Okay, that guy fits on there pretty good. Now here's another example of a different way that we clamp things together. Sometimes we'll just use some masking tape to hold the cardboard in place while we're letting it dry. Bob apparently has been watching me glue because he's got too much on there now, but he's going to scrape a little of the extra off. Yeah, they're going to be inside this compartment, and this compartment itself is waterproof, so in theory, no water will get inside of there, so it's not necessary to cover those. In theory, that's correct. And we're going to use our paint bucket clamp, but another thing you can do is just use some masking tape to hold it in position while it dries a little bit. I'm sorry? You mean this area? No. Well, it doesn't have to be, but there's no reason to. If you've got a really long bow or a really long stern on there, sometimes you might want to put a supporting cross member in there somewhere, like we're going to show you here in just a second. This is a center bulkhead we're going to put on the boat here. And we didn't mark our center, but we'll do that right now. Okay, we're 67 inches long. So Bob's going to make us a mark 33 and a half. And so we can get this paint can off of here. I'm going to put a couple more pieces of tape just to hold this on here. And here again, I'm just using this tape temporarily just to hold this in place while our glue dries. And I'm going to look and see if we had the same problem back here or not. And this one fits pretty good. Bob's making a mark in the center here where we're going to put our center bulkhead in there. And these bulkheads are the key to making your boat strong. Without these bulkheads, you're going to have a very flexible, non-sturdy boat. This guy folds up just like that. With a little luck, he'll fit in there. Okay, we're going to put that in there just like that. Now this one is not hollow like the wall, but you can do it that way and it might even be better. A lot of times we'll do that just for this small scaled down boat. We didn't do that today. We'll go ahead and stick that guy in there. Get him glued up and stick him in there. And I'm going to, while Bob's doing that, we'll take a look at this front and see if we can get our bow cap put on here. Okay, Bob's going to need another clamp to pull those sides together. Okay, I'm going to grab that tape. way across the top there. The masking tape really works well. I mean, it just holds things in place just a few minutes while your glue sets up. And we'll set the old paint bucket on there again. All right, we're getting pretty close to ready to put tape on our boat now. And when I say tape, some of these seams were these, you can see the exposed edges of the cardboard or the exposed flutes of the cardboard. When your boat's all constructed, you don't want any of these exposed flutes showing because that's a source for water to get into your boat. If you've got a source anywhere for water to get in your boat, once it's inside, it goes everywhere. So you got to seal all of that up. Now that type of seam right there, we would use one of the tapes we talked about before. You can use masking tape all the way along there. We can use that paper packing tape, the self-adhesive, or the wettable. Now this is probably glued up good enough here. I'm going to take these little masking tape clamps, if you will, off of here. Now on a seam like that, if you were going to use masking tape, I'd recommend using a 2-inch wide masking tape. Here, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use this 3/4. And what you would do is just roll it around the corner like that, to where you're covering up that exposed edge of the cardboard or the exposed flutes. The other tape we've got, you can do the same thing with it. This wettable paper tape works really well. We'll do one of these on the other side here. See those scissors? Give me some water. Okay. Okay, now this paper tape, it's just got a an adhesive that you moisten on here. I need the towel. And what I do is I just take a little Tupperware or plastic thing full of water, roll it through there, let the excess water drip off, and we do the same. This is just a different way to cover those seams. Lay it on there, use a sponge or just a moist towel. You just kind of, let's turn that around so they can see better, Bob. Just kind of gently, smooth, and roll it over the corner and smooth it out. Use a towel, and that absorbs the excess moisture out of that. And that, there again, that covers those exposed flutes or exposed edges of cardboard. Anywhere you have those, we've got some in here on these bulkheads. We've got some on the edge of these bow caps. All of those need to be covered with tape. I'm going to leave this clamp on there just another minute or two. Now these exposed flutes are one type of seam that you have to deal with before you paint your boat, before you polyurethane and paint your boat. Another type of seam you have is like this, where you don't have any exposed flutes, but there's still an opportunity for water to get in there. And those types of seams, I always like to just use the caulk that we talked about. And what we do is just shoot just a small bead of caulk on there, and I just always smooth it out with my finger. Wipe the excess off with my finger. And that's how we treat those kind of joints where there's no exposed flutes or no exposed edges of cardboard. I like to just fill those with some caulk to make sure no water gets in there. Now we're pretty close. We're not going to go around and tape the whole boat here. Well, maybe we are, Bob. This tape, sometimes you have to make relief cuts in it. here's an example of that, where we want to fold it down inside of there. And what we'll do, you can use scissors or just a utility knife. Make a little cut there, and you can fold that down in there. Okay? That's what we call a relief cut, and that allows you to fold that down in there. And then we need to do another relief cut because we're on this corner out here. And I'll cut it in like that. I'll hold this up and show you here in a second. I made these little relief cut here from the end of the tape into the boat, and that just allows us to fold that tape around the corner, because otherwise it'll wrinkle or buckle on that corner if we don't do that. And there again, we want to use a towel or a sponge to just kind of blot off the excess moisture on that. We'll do the same thing on this side. Just kind of roll that tape around, and it kind of folds over itself. Now, what all this taping and caulking does for you, it gets all of the cardboard sealed up so you have an even surface everywhere to put your waterproofing on. The waterproofing being the polyurethane. So you would go around the whole boat. We normally put 3, sometimes 4 coats of polyurethane on a boat, particularly if you're using the water base. Tends to require a few more coats than the oil base. The oil base you can get away with 2 or 3 coats. And then your boat is, after you get your polyurethane on there, we normally recommend, let me back up, we normally recommend sanding just very lightly between your coats of polyurethane. You can put the first coat of polyurethane on, you don't need to sand. Put the second coat on, then it starts to build up on the boat a little bit. I recommend just lightly sanding it after the second coat before the third or fourth coat goes on. And that gets you to a point with your polyurethane on there, then you're ready to paint, put your color on, and then add your theme, your design, your name, your stripes, etc. But one thing I want to show you now that this boat is put together, if Bob will get on the other end there for me, this is very, very rigid. It's not floppy. It's not, I mean, it's strong. If you could surf, I think you could stand on this boat and it would hold you up. And what does that, what really adds the strength to it is these hollow walls and the bulkheads. That's what gives you the strength. Sometimes you'll see a boat out there that has no bulkheads in it and just single ply walls or not a hollow wall, and every one of them breaks in the middle. But like I said, I'd be glad. I know we rushed through that, and we'll be glad to stay after as long as we need to and answer any questions you have regarding anything we did. And Bob, don't have an accident with that knife on my boat, okay? Oh, Bob punched a hole in my boat. Oh, well, I believe that it does, yeah. James got a good point there. When you put that polyurethane on the boat, that polyurethane soaks into the cardboard, and that cardboard becomes much, much more rigid and much stronger. It adds a lot of strength to the boat, and that's a good point. The paint, probably not so much, but the polyurethane, when it soaks into this and it dries, it gets hard and brittle, and it really makes the boat strong. Now here we had an accident. I'm not sure it was an accident, but a little hole in our boat. Well, we can't have a hole in your boat, but I promise you, in the process of building your boat, somebody's going to kick it, or you're going to set it on a rock and it's going to punch a hole or something. Very simple to repair. Some people like to put just a little blob of silicone in there. I really don't think it's necessary. We just like to cut out a little patch of tape, apply it on there, blot it over, just like that. And a lot of times we'll do a round patch like that, because if you do a flat square patch, sometimes the edges of that tape, the square corners, kind of tend to want to peel up on you. But if you have a round patch like that, they're less likely to do that. And here again, this isn't, we rushed and tried to do this as fast as we could to give you an example of how a boat goes together from start to finish. And Bob and I would be glad to stay after and answer any questions anybody might have. Appreciate you putting up with us. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, I've got a few things to give away, and we'll ask some questions to make sure that everybody's been paying attention. First question is, Gary said the first step that you do should be what? Back in the back. Make a model. Okay, very good. And what, abstract question, sorry. From what country does the thing you make the model come from? Yes? No. That's good. Manila. Manila folder. Get it? All right. Got it? All right. What's the size of the sheet that the cardboard typically comes in? Over there in the green hat. Yes. What is it? 4 by 8. Would you hand that down to him, please? Thank you. All right, the next question, true or false? I haven't used a true or false question before. In the use of glue, what is more glue the better? Let's go back there. No, false. Technically, it should be false, not no. Okay? And could you hand those to her, please? All right. Which one of these does not go with the others? You've all heard those, right? Relative to this presentation. A dash line, a solid line, or a double white line? Sir. Very good. Very good. It's hard to imagine. All right, that's these, by the way, are not airline approved. Thought I'd mention that. And the last question, what part of the boat should you never use temporary screws on? Young man. The what? The hull? That's close enough. Very good. All right. All right, the next set of questions, or the next set of questions, the next set of answers come from Sue Wilhite in terms of design ideas. There you go.
Hi, I'm Sue Wilhite, and I'm here with AISD, and this will be my 12th boat this year that I've built with 5th graders. I build a boat with my 5th grade class every year, and it is probably one of the best things I do. It's one of my favorite parts of the year. And I'm going to just talk briefly to you about A, why you should build a boat with your kids, and B, what they're going to get out of this. So first of all, I know if you don't teach in schools, you might not know this, but this time of year, a lot of what we hear about is this thing called the tax test. I know it's a shock, but that's what we talk a lot about. And my favorite part of this is, even though we're getting all ready for this tax test, I still have these moments after school and on Saturdays that my kids come up and we get to actually apply all of these things that we've been learning all year long. So math, every measurement tech that you teach would be involved with building this boat. You know, they have to measure the length, they have to measure the width, they have to figure out the volume, they have to, they have to divide fractions because, if you're trying to find the halfway point on your boat and it's like 1/4 of an inch, well, then you have to say, well, what's 1/2 of a 4th? How are you going to find the center point of that? So there are a lot of math skills involved, and we can talk about it all day, and we can give them all sorts of little manipulatives in class. But when you have kids that are actually out there with a tape measure and a yardstick, and they're having to measure, that's our goal. That's why we come to work every day, is so that they can grow up and they can learn how to use those things. So the techs are one reason why I do it. Science, I am a science teacher. Buoyancy, of course, buoyancy is a big thing. Density is a big skill that we're learning here. We're figuring out averages because I don't pick my rowers before we start building the boat. So we do this activity where we figure out what the average 5th grader weight is. So we do averages for math. And another thing that they learn how to do is write, because in order to be part of our boat building team, They fill out a job application. They write me a letter as to why they would be good at helping me. And I make a work schedule for them because I cannot have 80 fifth graders show up the same day to work on a boat. So I make a work schedule for them, and they have to show up on time and work the whole time. And if they do that, they get a ticket from me. At the end of the work session, I give each kid a ticket who worked the whole session, and that's how we pick our rowers. So it's an incentive, and they learn real life skills. And at the end of the whole thing, we have pictures. We have lots and lots of pictures. And we take those pictures, and it's a class project to make an iMovie out of our pictures. So we use technology also. So it's really, I think, one of the best things I do as a teacher. I think at the end of it, I feel like I've really taught something by the time it's over. Then, you've just got all your real world stuff that they have to be able to do. They have to be able to work with people. They don't get to pick who they come to work with. I assign them work groups. So they have to learn how to work with people maybe they've never worked with before. Some of them have to do jobs that aren't very comfortable to them. But another thing that a lot of them learn, something that they're good at that they never would have known they were good at. I had my first year building a boat, I had this little boy who really struggled in everything he did, but he was a master at looking at something and figuring out how it could go together. I mean, he was a master at it. And I just remember when it was all said and done, his mom coming up to me and saying, he's learned so much just from this one thing because he's a hands-on type of kid. This is the kind of thing he needs to do. So you're going to learn. You've got some kids that are super artistic, and I really don't do hardly anything to build this boat, and they're 10-year-olds. I mean, they do pretty much all of the work. The only thing I do is the cutting because it's a safety issue to let the 10-year-olds have a carpet knife. It's just too dangerous. So we don't do that. So they learn a lot. The logistics in a school setting or a scout group setting or any kind of setting is, where are we going to build this boat? And at my school, we have a science lab, and it's kind of a perfect place because it's got a tile floor, and I can keep it kind of free of debris because you don't want to set it down on top of a rock or something, as Gary said earlier. I get my money from different sources every year. The activity fund, since we are a nonprofit, it's not a very high fee for us to join, to send in the application. So usually I get that from our activity fund. Supplies, I send home a list to my parents of what we need and then ask them if they're going to donate something just to have it in by a certain day. And whatever I don't have, I usually go to my dad's club or my PTA, or sometimes I just go to the Home Depot guy and say, hey, would you like to donate a gallon of polyurethane to our school? And sometimes, it just kind of depends on who you get. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I have gotten donations from corporations before. Usually I build a whale boat every year, which is a pretty big boat. And I think the typical cost to me, we also get the cardboard donated, so that's a big expense that we don't have to worry about if you're a nonprofit. But it usually costs about $150, I would say, to build it when you count in the polyurethane and the paint. That's the biggest expense, really, is the polyurethane and the paint and the wood glue. The wood glue, depending, they sell it by the gallon. Usually my parents will bring me a gallon of wood glue, so usually that I don't end up having to buy. Did you have?
Did you build it in the lab?
Our science lab, yes.
Did you have a problem getting it out the door?
Well, now that's one of the things I was going to say. You have to be careful. But no, our boat usually is, it's about 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet, depending on how we design it that year. And if you tilt it, up like this and go out at an angle, we can get it out. But you would need to look at your hallway. We have a pretty wide hallway there, so it would depend on where your science lab was in your building. But yeah, you do have to consider getting it out of the room. You do. and how wide it is. Ours is usually about 32 inches wide, so we usually tilt it this direction and then angle it up and go out at an angle. So we can usually get it there. That would be a disaster if you couldn't. And then the most fun part of the whole thing is this design, our theme. What are we going to do this year? I think the first day of school almost every year, I get asked at least 3 times, are we building a boat this year? And what is our theme going to be this year? What are we going to do this year? And we always, in my room, I have a classroom theme every year. And so we kind of take my classroom theme and we take that and we use a boat with it. So last year, my classroom theme was digging deeper. That was our classroom theme, and it was kind of a fossil theme. And so we did a dinosaur boat last year. And if I must say, it was really awesome. It was really, really good. I've got to thank Randall Mill Pharmacy for the inspiration for our design last year, because they had these little cards, these swing cards, and we were trying to figure out how to do it. And I literally bought like 3 of these dinosaur swing cards, and we took the pieces apart and then we blew them up and put them back together. It was really cool. It was really neat. It was really cool. But anyway, we're still very proud of that boat. And actually, we won a big award with it last year. So, but that's the fun part, is what is our theme going to be? How are we going to decorate this boat? How are we going to dress up that day? What award are we going for this year? We have lots of schools that participate in this. I see Holly out there. Raise your hand, Holly, so people know. Veda Knox. Over here, it's Judy, Judy Little, right? Is it Little? Yeah, they're every year. And they always are our stiffest competition. But anyway, that is so fun to go, and my kids always love to see the other schools that are there, and it's really a great day for the kids and their families all come out, and it's just one of those things that we just don't get to do very much anymore in public education. So it's really super fun, it's really super worth it. When you're designing, when you're choosing a design, this design for my boat is what I kind of go with for the most part. I mean, it's a simple design for a 5th grader, something they can accomplish. My first year, we did a design like this, and see all these little pieces in the bottom, and how I said that I don't let them use the knife. That was kind of tedious. That was kind of a tedious design for us to do, and also it weighed so much by the time we finished it. I remember pulling up to the thing with our boat and Jeff Williams just laughing at me because it was so heavy it took like 20 people to carry it off of the trailer. So, I mean, you got to be really, and that's another thing when you're calculating, you got to think, how much is my boat going to weigh? Not just how much are my passengers going to weigh, but how much is my boat going to weigh? Because if you use a lot of extra layers of cardboard, you're adding weight to your boat. And that boat could have probably gone down the Mississippi River with Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. That thing was built to last, I'll tell you, but it was so heavy. So really keep it simple if you're dealing with younger kids. Older kids, like if you're teaching a high school physics class or a high school, any kind of high school class where they could actually use the knives, then yeah, something like that would be great. They're going to be more involved with the cutting and the engineering part of it. Let's see. Practice. If you are going for the fastest finish award, really they should try to practice no matter what, because when they get there, they get overwhelmed if they don't know what to do. And most of our kids haven't ever rowed before or paddled a boat before. So even if you can't get them in the real water, I usually give each of them an oar, and we practice like, okay, go straight, everybody row together, and then if we're going to turn left, you guys do this, and you guys do, and we kind of run through it. Last year was the first year we ever got to practice in water, and it made such a difference. So if there's any way you can get them in the water, I would not put my boat in the water that I was planning on taking to the race that day, just because I wouldn't want it ruined before the race. But some people, I think, Holly, you always have an old boat that you use, right? Do you use your old boats, or? Okay, yeah. And last year we kind of just got lucky, and we had a couple parents that had some paddle boats on. They lived in Interlaken, and we went and I just had them row their little paddle boats around, and at least they got a feel for what rowing is, because most of them don't. And it does make a huge difference if they ever get an opportunity to practice. But I'm just going to encourage y'all. I know a lot of you from AISD came because it's GT credit, but I hope you take it away from this that it's also really a super valuable thing to do with your kids, and if once you do it, you'll be hooked on it. You'll want to do it every year, because when it's all said and done, that's the thing that they're going to. I know that my kids, even now, the ones that are graduating from high school, you know, they'll always say, "Are you building a boat this year? What's your boat going to be like this year?" It's the one thing they remember, you know, about school. So making memories. So anyway, and I'll stay for a little while after if anybody has any questions. So.
Thank you, Sue. All right, before we go to our last session, I have a couple more things to give away. And as per usual, I have some questions. I think we've devised the new name of a new TV show. Not Can You Outsmart a Fifth Grader? No, that's not it. It's What's the Average Weight of a Fifth Grader? Do you know the answer?
It depends every year.
Anybody want to guess? All right, the gentleman back there. Are you a fifth grader, by the way? Yes. You're not a fifth grader? How would you know? Okay. And what would the average weight be? 80 pounds. We'll go with it for whatever that's worth. All right. Now, what term, this is the abstract question of the group, what term did Sue use that has nothing to do with gender? Students? No. Good try. Anything else? Anybody else? Yes? No. Now, come on. No. Yes, sir. No, but I'm going to give you the answer. It's buoyancy. There you go. Nothing to do with gender. Did you like that, Gary? You didn't like that. Okay. All right, and now this prize is going to be no, sorry. All right, here's a backpack. Oh, a towel and a set of glasses. And the question is, fill in the blank. And it's a Mark Twain quote. At least that's what I think. I'm not sure. X makes perfect. Yes, ma'am. Practice makes perfect. So often we have kids show up and with their boat, and they've never been in the water. Find a swimming pool, find some place for them to practice, and it really does help a whole lot. All right, for those, one other question. Who is our favorite but not exclusive school district to participate in the cardboard boat regatta? Everybody all at once. Very good. Favorite but not exclusive. We get a lot of people. How many people will we have attend the regatta this year, do you think? 4,000 people attend. And how many boats? 153 boats. So it's a pretty fun time. How many youth boats? 80 and 100 youth boats. So it's a fun time. And the other thing that goes on, this guy's name is not Darla according to the agenda, it's James. And I'm going to let James describe to you the mini boat regatta for the younger youth that shows up.
Is it on? Okay, yep. Nah, it's just awkward. As the name implies, this is a rain gutter. And this was devised several years ago by my wife. She got the idea from the Boy Scouts. Her mom was worked for the Boy Scouts. And this is for the younger crowd that aren't quite old enough to make it in the wave pool. These are sanctioned by the Boy Scouts, and we recommend that you follow the instructions from the Boy Scout kits. You can buy these at the Boy Scout store. And you can go online and pick up the flyer for the rain gutter regatta. And on here, there is a $1 coupon for the kit. If I remember right, the kit's less than $10. It's $2.99 with a coupon. What a deal. These are real simple. They're a lot of fun to make. I helped put several of them together. And they're cute. They just got a little sail there, and they fly. Anyway, the one thing they'll do, there'll be water in here, put in, and they just have to blow on the back of the sail to make it go. All the heats are timed heats, and the age groups are from age 4 to 12, and 4-year-olds through 50-year-olds race together, so we do have it classified. We have 2 sets of gutters out here, and there'll be kids going at the same time. We did have a troop several years ago of Boy Scouts that came in, and they actually made this an official Boy Scout event for themselves. And we do have ribbons, and we've given out other age-appropriate, we have trophies, medallions, different things that we've given out over the years. But that, in a nutshell, is the rain gutter regatta, or mini boat regatta. But if you have any questions, I'll be here. A couple of things I want to say about the cardboard boats. You need to make sure that the boats are under 8 feet tall. We've had a few incidences, which I won't name any names that Gary helped us with, on some boats that were rather tall. The other thing is, on the time trials, one of the things that we don't have in the flyer is that the racetrack or the race shape for the children is a V shape instead of a U shape for the time trial in the wave pool. So that's all I've got. Oh, one other thing, these flyers are going to be on the website, so you can download them and mail them in, and they will be on the website on Monday. Oh, and there's some up front as well.
Thank you, Darla. James. Thanks for leading us to the gutter. I have 2 quick questions, and then we're going to wrap up. We're pretty much right on schedule, so thanks to all of our presenters. But here's the question, and I've got a towel and a backpack for the person that can tell me what the propulsion power is for the, your hand was up first, sir. A breath. Very good, thanks. The propulsion power for the gutter race. So good. Those are our presentations. Once again, you'll be able to watch them on Channel 16 if you so desire. You can also borrow a copy of the DVD once it's finished. And I want to remind you of a couple quick things. The 22nd Annual Cardboard Boat Regatta is on April 30th starting at about 9 o'clock. And we will do our judging and our competition soon thereafter, and the corporate challenges and the high school challenges and all of the other things that go on that are just a really fun time for everybody. Riverlegacy.org is the place where you can find much of the forms and information and photographs and fun stuff that show where what we're planning on doing this year and what's gone on in prior years. You can also start connecting with us on Facebook. We have Facebook connection. You can fan us, you can like us, you can follow us, whatever all of those things mean. But you can do all of that stuff on Facebook, and we encourage you to do so, and that's another way that we can communicate with you. And I think that's Hurricane Harbor is our very gracious host for the event. They provide us access to the park and a lot of resources relating to the park, and they are really a great group. There's going to be plenty of stuff to eat and drink there. Hopefully the weather will be nice and warm and the water be cool, not cold, and so we're looking forward to a great event. So 2 things in terms of timing. Remember, if you qualify for free cardboard. You need to pay attention to the time and place and so forth to be able to pick up your free cardboard. And thanks to Bates Container for that. And also, please fill in one of these evaluations before you leave today. And with that being said, I hope we floated your boat, and we look forward to seeing you all come April 30th. Thank you very much.